Good morning guys and welcome back to my channel. It feels like a long time since I have uploaded a video to this channel, but that's not because I haven't been being consistent-ish with YouTube. I actually made a new channel, which some of you will know, mainly for the purpose of being able to post things that aren't just like fitness stuff on there. So things like beauty and skincare and makeup and fashion and just general stuff, and keep this one very like fitness orientated. So you can kind of like pick and choose which one you go between. But my other channel, I will link below, is called Annie's Life, and there are 3 videos up on there. And yeah, it's just a bit more about like my life. Obviously this channel is very much about my life as well, but the other one is just very much about general stuff that's not fitness, but I will try and keep this one like as personal as possible as well. But we've got a big update today because I know a lot of you have been following along my injury journey and nightmare with getting my operation on my knee, and I have finally had it. I had it last Thursday, so we're about 10 days on. I'm actually meant to have my stitches taken out today. I wanted to just chat to you a bit more about things in this video. I've had a lot of really kind messages about my recovery. A lot of you that have had injuries or currently have injuries have been quite like invested in hearing more about it, because it's been a journey, let me tell you. I mean, you probably know if you followed along my videos, but I pretty much got injured over 1.5 years ago now, which is mental. I'm not going to go into like loads of detail now, but I think a little bit later on in the video I might have a bit of a sit down and run through what the experience was like and everything like that. Weirdly, 2 days after I got home from the hospital, I tried to sit down when I was still completely out of it. Definitely a story for later, but I was completely wiped out and tried to film a video and just didn't work because my memory was all over the place with like really bad memory fog. And I might try and insert a few clips from it and just see like how I felt straight after, because my mind is just so much clearer now. But yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll save that for a little bit later on. My movement is still very limited. I left the house this weekend for the first time, and yeah, it's not the easiest to walk, but I can walk without my crutches now, which is really good. So we're gonna try and shuffle around the flat today and just film a little vlog. I just wanted to catch up. As much as like I've really struggled with my relationship with fitness, as you'll probably know, over the last year, you'll probably have noticed that I've been so up and down, on and off. I guess it's literally because I've had a pretty like non-functioning right leg, and it's very difficult when it's fitness is your job and whatever, and I've just felt so like disconnected from it. Like I've really struggled with it. Like it's been quite like a mental battle, but I am so excited to get back on it. Like fitness is just like one of my absolute like true passions. It has been for the longest time, and I just can't wait to get back to that and be able to like bring that to you guys as well. That's what my content used to be, and it still is there deep down. It's just had a little bit of a holiday. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of reconnect with you guys and just take you along a nice healthy day, and we're trying to do everything to get back on track. Obviously there won't be any workout footage or anything in this video, but yeah, it should be fun anyway. So if you do fancy sticking around and supporting my channel, please make sure you subscribe. I need to always remember to say that at the start of the video. And yeah, let's get on with our day. It takes me such a long time to walk between rooms at the moment. And if I forget something, I'm talking to the vlog, and if I forget something in the other room, it's a bit of a nightmare, and then I have to get Elliot to run back, don't I? Elliot's been amazing. He's looked after me so much. He's a 10 out of 10. I've been trying this new thing that when I juice for a couple of days, because the one thing about juicing that I hate, which everyone always says, is that juices are so difficult to clean. Well, they're not difficult, they just take a long time, and it's just not all the bits go in the dishwasher, and to do it every day is just a bit much. So as long as my juice has some kind of like citric acid in, I find it keeps easily for like 2 to 3 days. So I've been trying to do that. Well, I haven't been doing that, but before Ellie and I went to Portugal, when did we get back from Portugal? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Before we went to Portugal, that's what I was trying to do. So I had an odd box. You know odd box, I think I've spoken about it on my channel before, but it's just basically a load of rescued fruit and veg. They have a delivery service in London. I don't know whether they do it outside of London actually. I had a load of fruit left over and some vegetables, and I just put it all together in a juice 2 days ago. So this has got like apples, it's actually got tangerines in because they had loads of tangerines in the box, and I don't actually snack on fruit unless it's like berries that often. And I obviously put bananas in my smoothies and things, but I had tangerines in, I put some ginger in there, some lemon in there, lots of carrots, there were loads of carrots in my odd box this week, and what else? Maybe that was it, but we haven't tried this combo before, so I've just been storing it in these corksicle bottles in the fridge. And Elliot and I are gonna start our day in a healthy way, aren't we?
Yeah, healthy queen.
I mean, we haven't been being, have we? But
I think I ran 15 kilometres last week, so I feel like I'm pretty much a marathon runner.
yeah, Elliot ran his first 15k. How good is that? I was so proud of him. It's like, you've got a marathon coming next. This is quite a lot of juice. I don't feel like I usually do. Is that too much? It's a good one. It's a really good one.
It's delicious. Come on, give it a
Very good. Tangerine gives it such a nice taste, doesn't it? It's so sweet. So I don't know what got into me last night, but I came back, and because like I was saying, we've had a few weeks of just not amazing eating, I was like, I just want to meal prep some stuff. So I came up with a few ideas, and I don't like having like fully prepped meals because I like to eat what I feel like eating on the day, but I prepped some kale, some sweet potato and pumpkin, some chickpeas, like roasted chickpeas, even though these are not good for my stomach, some tofu with some cabbage, some aubergine, had loads of aubergine, and I got all these pomegranate seeds ready from actual like fresh pomegranates, and some dressings, 2 little dressings as well, and some beetroot at the back. So yeah, I was just thinking, I should probably close the fridge actually. Every day I can build like nourish bowl kind of things for lunch and use different bases. I can cook some rice noodles or some rice if I want, or like quinoa, choose between different sauces and kind of build up what I want on that day. And I just thought it'd help me stay a bit prepped throughout the week. So we'll see how long it lasts. And yeah, I'm gonna build a nourish bowl for lunch, which I will show you. I'm actually gonna film a full what I eat in a week video, which I've never done before, but I just added a bit of lettuce, some chopped tomatoes, and I'm just gonna make up the rest of it with some of those prepped ingredients. So hard to find a good position for the camera and have my foot elevated at the same time. But I thought we'd sit down and have a little chat about injuries and my injury and my operation, and just go through a little bit of a timeline, because I don't think I've ever properly spoken it through in a video. I've obviously just mentioned it here and there, and you guys generally have like kept up with the journey and the process. But yeah, I thought it'd be good to just get it all down. It'd be interesting to look back at this in a few years and see how I feel about it then. And also I'm pretty sure I've got quite a bit of footage, well actually I don't know how much footage, but things from over the past year, things very like in the moment things, or bits of me chatting about things that might be quite interesting to include and like help explain this whole journey and process to you. But I'm gonna try and keep it as brief as possible because I could probably chat about this for hours. I'm a chatterbox at the best of times. And yeah, let's see how we get on. So let's start at the very beginning. So when did I pick up this injury, and like what is the injury? So I picked up this injury in February of 2020. I'm not sure exactly how I did it, but what I remember from the day is that I went to the gym. I can't remember what I did at the gym, but I remember thinking my knee doesn't feel quite right. In any other situation, I would have just rested it, probably gone to my physio, who I was seeing once a week at that point, and yeah, just had a rest until it felt better again, or you know, had the appropriate physio. But this specific day, I actually had a squash match to play in the evening for a team in the south of England, which I had been brought brought in to play number 1 on their ladies team for. And it was my first match, it was my like debut match, and I really wanted to win for them. That was obviously the reason they brought me in. And I was really excited to play and meet the team for the first time, but I knew that my knee didn't feel right. So I drove to this match, I got on court and I was like, this is like, it really doesn't feel right. I was literally limping around court, like throwing myself at the ball, just trying to retrieve and trying to win badly. I did win that match. I think I won that match 3-1. I obviously played appallingly and I was in a lot of pain. Like I knew there was something wrong. I'm not particularly injury prone. I've had like a couple of injuries before. I'm not someone who just like has weak knees or like goes over on the ankle all the time or anything. And I just knew there was something not right. And at the end of the match, I realized I was gonna have to drive home. That had a very sore knee. It was very inflamed, like visibly swollen and really sore. Somewhere along the line, I went to see my physio. They looked at it. They actually thought originally it might be like a meniscus damage, which I know my injury can commonly be misdiagnosed as because of like where it is in my knee. Had all this weird referred pain, so I couldn't quite figure out where all the pain was. It was like circling round my kneecap basically. So for a few weeks we worked on some rehab, and long story short, a couple of weeks in, I knew it wasn't getting any better, and we then went into lockdown. The timing was just not good at all. And I just thought, well, considering like I've been injured, this is probably a really good time to just rest it, try and do some rehab, some recovery, and then we'll see where we're at. So I started that process and realized very quickly in lockdown that it wasn't getting any better. I had tried to do a few normal exercises on it, and I was like, it's not getting any better. I couldn't do a squat, I couldn't do a lunge without like quite a lot of pain. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know whether to push through the injury or I should be completely resting it. And I quite quickly realized that even walking was like causing it to inflame, and it would throb. It's so painful when it blew up that it was literally like this throbbing pain, and it was so visibly swollen as well. Like I'll try and insert some pictures if I've got some of one knee versus the other knee, but pretty much had the whole of lockdown being completely confused. It was so difficult in lockdown. We obviously had access to medical care in the UK, but unless it was an absolute emergency, you didn't want to take it because obviously the world was in this like crazy state anyway. You were like, okay, I don't want to go into hospital because I've got a sore knee. Because obviously they had bigger things to worry about. In the last few weeks of lockdown, I was finally like, right, I'm just gonna book an MRI scan because nothing's getting better. I'm quite clued up on, you know, my body, how it works, rehab exercises, things that'd be good to do. I was doing a lot of research as well, and I just thought, I'm just gonna book an MRI scan privately, see how we get on. So I had this MRI scan and it came back, and I had it done privately. I think I paid like £250 for it. It came back and it was just quite clear what was going on. They sent it straight to my physio. My physio was absolutely amazing, and they quite quickly kind of translated it into sort of a language that I could read, and they basically found that my Hoffa's pad, which is like this, I'm probably not the best person to explain this because I've got no kind of like medical background, but basically my Hoffa's pad was really severely inflamed and was getting trapped. Without going into too much detail when I don't know the right terminology. That was what was causing the pain. I then went to see a knee specialist who was a recommendation from, I think it was from my GP. So somewhere along the line, I'd also had a private GP appointment. It was quite difficult to get anything on the NHS at that time. They'd recommended someone to me, so I'd gone to see this specialist, and they'd looked at my MRI and they were like, wow, it's really inflamed. They were showing me examples on Google of this injury, and mine was so significantly worse. Like you could just see the shaded grey area, and I was like, oh, so that's why it's causing me so much pain. And basically any like flexion of the knee, because my Hoffa's pad was like trapped, it was just causing it to be more trapped. Very technical way of saying it. He basically said that the likelihood is that if I just kind of stay off my knee but just do some specific exercises, which I was working on with my physio anyway, he'd approved all of those. He just basically said that it was likely to just go down, the inflammation will go down. He said in about 10 of the 100 cases that he would see, would end up having injections into the area to try and help the inflammation. I think it helps the inflammation and helps the pain. And then about 1 in that 10 would actually have to have it operated on. I then spent the next 6 months, long story short, I then spent the next 6 months working on my rehab with my physio, and I was just so convinced that I'd be able to do this naturally. I was so convinced that I wasn't going to be the 10 in 100, let alone the 1 in the 100 people that needed any like further action apart from just rehab. So at this point I'd been doing rehab for a long time and my physio was amazing and so helpful, supportive, did everything right with me, but it just wasn't getting better. And I had a few weeks where I couldn't see her and I was like, it's just not right. Like some days it's just still really inflamed and I know we're doing everything right and I know I'm being really sensible. So from there I then went back to the private specialist who'd originally looked at my MRI scan and I just said, look, it's not getting better, would you mind referring me for some injections? He referred me for some injections, which I then went to have. They were not that nice. I'm quite good with needles, but they were just like, no, it was just like not a nice feeling and it was quite like a deep injection. I had those and it got absolutely no better. Like I saw no improvement from them at all. The only thing that was probably a little bit better was it maybe slightly managed my pain, but really didn't improve at all. I carried on and did my physio and at this point I was a bit like, ugh, this is really annoying. Like it's a long time. Bear in mind, fitness is not only like my passion, but also my job. It was very difficult to do my job. When I launched my first Accomplished guide last year, I had to have my sister film half of the exercises on the app, which was just so sad in a sense. It was such an exciting time for me and I couldn't even like demonstrate the exercises properly. And it's completely changed the kind of content that I have been able to put out. I'm gonna go back to the timeline and then we can chat a bit more about this stuff after. So yeah, when I realised that the injections hadn't done anything and my rehab wasn't working, I went to my NHS GP and I just said, like, I think I really need some help with this. Obviously, if you're not from England, with the NHS you get like effectively like free healthcare. Rather than going along the private route, I was like, I probably need to do this on the NHS because I didn't have private healthcare insurance. So I went to my GP and they wanted to do their own MRI scan. So I had an MRI scan actually pretty quickly. And I then had a consultant call me and she was absolutely shocking. I have to say, the absolute worst person in this whole process that I'd spoken to. And she called me and she just basically said, like, these are the results of your MRI. It was exactly the same as the results from the last MRI, funnily enough, because none of my pain had gone. In fact, if anything, it probably got a bit worse. And it was visibly worse on the MRI scan as well. And she just said, what I'd suggest doing is just carrying on life and just going back to squatting and lunging. And I was like, oh my gosh. If that was an option for me, that is what I would be doing. Believe me, that is what I would be doing. And she just did not take it seriously at all. And I knew deep down, I'm not a hypochondriac, I'm not someone who like exaggerates my pain. I was like, I'm in a lot of pain and there's no way that I can do that. And she just basically said, she didn't really know what to do. She hadn't really heard about the injury before. She clearly wasn't a specialist in the field and I just needed someone, I guess, who was gonna give me more informed help. So that was another bummer. I then one day, I think I was chatting about it on my story and at this point I felt so helpless. I was like, I don't know what to do, but this is having such a big impact on my life. My friend Ellie voice noted me. She works in the industry as well and she just said she has seen this surgeon before. He was amazing. He's based at a private hospital in Kent, but just go and see him. Just pay to have a one-off consultation with him and just see what he says. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna do that. Nothing else has helped. So I drove an hour and a half to Kent, saw Professor Shetty at the Spire Alexandra Hospital, and he was absolutely amazing. He asked me to bring all of my documents, everything with me, all my MRI scans. I brought it all in an envelope and he said, I don't want to look at it yet. I just want to ultrasound your knee and then I'll look at it. So I think I paid for this appointment. It wasn't a lot of money. I think it was maybe like £250 again. It sounds like a lot, but for a one-off private appointment with Professor Shetty, who's one of the top surgeons in the country, people fly in from other countries to see him, which I hadn't realised at the time, I thought was quite decent. So he looked at my knee and he was like, what's the pain you're feeling? Looked at how it was moving and everything, and he just said, basically, this is your issue. Now I'm gonna look at your paperwork. And he was like, yeah, this all adds up. And he just basically said that I more than likely will need to have an operation, but he needs to do so we can't remember exactly what the name of the scan was, but it was basically a CT scan. But it was this really strange type of CT scan where I had to push my knee against something, and it was like basically looking at how my kneecap tracked, because he had a worry that I actually had a bit of an issue with like the groove in my kneecap, which would mean a very different surgery. So he basically said it's likely to be one of these two surgeries. One was that they were just going to shave away the bit of the Hoffa's pad that was getting caught and kind of make it a bit smaller, which will cause me like almost no issues in the future, or it could be this one that was like slightly kind of more scary and more serious. So he went away, looked at the results from that, and then basically called me and just said, right, you do need to have an operation on it. It's not going to heal by itself. This is what I recommend doing. You don't need to pay for this operation. I can see you on the NHS. And I was like, hallelujah, this is exactly what I needed to hear. And obviously the fact that I could also have this on the NHS, I just really hadn't expected it. I was expecting him to say, yeah, and it's gonna be a few £1,000s. Really luckily, he actually works as an NHS surgeon and also as a private surgeon, and I could have my NHS treatment as long as I was referred from my GP. Definitely, if you're in the same situation as me, if you find a surgeon that you really, really want and he does NHS treatment, ask him whether you can have your treatment on the NHS, because I think especially because I was young and I wasn't insured and because of my career path, the surgeon was so keen on me having the operation, but I think he must have felt sorry for me, I guess. Because I'm young and like I said, I didn't have private health insurance and it was going to be expensive. You can actually ask your NHS GP to refer you directly to a surgeon. I didn't know that, and it's a little nifty trick. So yeah, we managed to do that. I managed to get my surgery on the NHS, and then I think he said originally it'll be 2 to 3 months, and I was like, oh, it's obviously not ideal because I'm in a lot of pain, but yeah, that's fine. If that's what the waiting list is, that is what the waiting list is. So I waited for that time and I heard nothing, and I then just basically got the news that it was going to be an awful lot longer. This whole thing was like a very, very emotional, stressful time, and I just didn't know what to do. They just basically said, like, we don't know when it's going to be, so it could be 6 to 12 months, and just kind of hold on and we'll get in touch with you. And he'd actually fast-tracked me as well, so because of my age and my career path, he'd kind of bumped me up the list as well, and I just hadn't heard anything for ages. So I finally came to the decision that I was actually going to just pay for the operation, and it was probably worth the money. So I decided that, and I was then told that after I'd paid for the operation, which was going to be with the exact same surgeon, like I said, he did private surgeries and also NHS surgeries, and with private surgeries, as obviously because you're paying for it, you just get in through like a different route, which is really amazing if it's something that you can do. I was obviously very bummed out about the money, but I was like, yeah, it's definitely worth it considering how long I have been injured for. So I got my date through, and I was really looking forward to it in a weird way because I knew it was just going to be such a release when I got it done. And the only thing that could have affected my date was if I got coronavirus. If I had picked it up, because obviously it's like still quite a high chance that you can get COVID-19. If I had picked it up, I needed to have been clear from it on the PCR test that you have 6 days before your operation. So you obviously have to test negative before you go in to have your surgery, so you're not obviously spreading it around the hospital. And so you're well. So since the start of the pandemic, I haven't knowingly had coronavirus, and I've been well the whole time. I obviously could have had it and been asymptomatic, and literally 7 days before my operation I was at my family home and I tested positive, and I couldn't believe it. The only week of the entire year and a bit that I needed to not get COVID, and I got it. You couldn't write it, honestly, and this time, like, I can laugh about it now. It was literally an awful time. Like, it's been like a really, really tough year and a half. I don't want to get emotional about it, speaking about it now. But yeah, it's been really hard. It's been like mentally like really, really tough. And I don't know how people do it that have had more severe injuries, because it's had the biggest impact of my life. And I think paired with the fact that we have been in lockdown for so much of the last year in the UK, paired with the fact that like it's been painful just to walk, like let alone to like do a proper workout, has just been really tough. And the waiting game and the ups and downs have just, yeah. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, I have to say. And yeah, I guess I just hadn't expected it to go quite the way that it had gone. And I think that was just like, I'd been waiting so long for the operation anyway, finally forked out the money for it, and then to pick up COVID at that point, you just, yeah, it was just the worst possible scenario. So I then had to wait to make sure that I was free from COVID, and the hospital had to rearrange my date, and they then told me on the phone that it was going to be, how long did they say it was going to be? For 12 weeks? No, it was 12, wasn't it? So the hospital then said they can rearrange my date and it's going to be 8 weeks, which is 2 months. And bear in mind, I'd already been waiting for almost a year and a half, and to then be told it's going to be another 12 weeks because I have unluckily picked up COVID in this time was just like, a lot. And they had miscommunicated with me a load of times. I'd been told loads of different things. Some people I'd spoken to on the phone at reception had told me it was going to be like a couple of weeks. Some people had told me it was going to be closer to 12 weeks, and I had no idea what was going on at this point. I flagged this to the hospital though, and they realised that they had completely miscommunicated with me. Very luckily, because it's the only thing that has been lucky along this journey, because of how bad the service that I had been given in terms of communication was. There's a lot more that went on to do with communication with the hospital, which was just really, really not good. And they are private hospitals who are paying for the service. They apologised to me and they said, we are going to give you the operation on the NHS for the exact same date as you would have had it privately, which was just amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy, and considering the journey that I've been on with it, that was just the best news. And they refunded me the money, gave me a date. I patiently waited, and then on the 21st of October, I finally went in for my operation. I've just realised this is going to be the longest video, but we're now at the bit where I actually go in for my op. So last Thursday, I woke up at, it was like 5:30 in the morning, because we live an hour and a half away from the hospital. That's the only thing. I knew I was in good hands because I was with this incredible surgeon, Professor Shetty, but we live really far away from the hospital when you're going there for an operation, and you know you're also going to have to drive back after you've had a knee operation in the car. It was not ideal, but definitely, well, so far, definitely worth it. We left about 5:30 in the morning, got to the hospital for 7, and Elliot wasn't allowed in the hospital with me, and we did know this, like I'd call to say, but on the day you just realise like how ridiculous it seems. Obviously there are a lot of reasons for it, so mainly to do with COVID and not having, you know, access people in the hospital in case Elliot had COVID as well or whatever, and not spreading it, completely fair enough. But when you're going in for an operation and you are completely by yourself, you realise like how important it actually is to have somebody with me. So I had to be in for 7 o'clock, and when I got in, I was then told that they were a bit delayed and they weren't going to be able to operate on me until 11, but that was okay. I was pretty nervous on the day, I have to say. I'd had so much time to think about it and so much time to be like, oh, you're going to be absolutely fine. Like, I hadn't actually thought about what I was doing, because I'd almost like taken all the, I don't know, the shock value out of it, because I'd just been speaking about this operation so much. It dragged out that when it got to the day, I was like, oh my God, I'm having an operation. I was like, oh God, right, okay, so here we are. I'm having an operation and I'm going under general anesthetic, and like, this is crazy. So yeah, I didn't get operated on until about 11. I went under general anesthetic for my operation, and then I woke up a couple of hours later and it was done. I didn't know exactly what time it was, and to be honest, the rest of that whole day is a complete blur to me. I remember some bits which I'll explain to you, but I was completely out of it. And Elliot said, like, by the time I got back out to him at about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, he was waiting outside in the car for me, and apparently I was just literally like, just not with it properly. Shortly after waking up, I managed to get some food. I had a tuna sandwich. I ate my food, but I knew I wasn't feeling that great, but I had been under general anesthetic, so it's quite normal to not feel great. And yeah, then the physio, bless her, came in to try and do some exercises with me, because you have to get up to go to the toilet, and then they have to show you how to do stairs and things, because I was partial weight bearing, so I could put my foot on the floor, and I had my crutches as well, so she had to just check everything was okay. And I stood up to go to the toilet and just started vomiting a lot. I was really, really sick, like very, very sick. I almost like I had a stomach bug, and I think it is quite a normal reaction for some people from general anesthetic. I have actually had general anesthetic once before. I didn't have that reaction at all, so I don't know if it was a different one that I'd reacted to or what, but I was very, very ill. And we then had to basically get me back into the bed, and I don't remember that section of being at the hospital. Really strange. I've got some very weird messages and weird notes on my phone that I've written during that period of time, and weird photos that I've taken and videos, which I will maybe insert if I'm not too embarrassed. But I was just not with it at all, but felt really, really sick. But I was eventually allowed to go home, and yeah, like I said, Elliot was waiting outside in the car for me, bless him, and picked me up. And within about 5 minutes of being in the car, I was throwing up again. I was very, very sick on that day. I don't even know what I was throwing up at this point, because I'd hardly eaten anything, because I had to fast from the night before, and I was just really not well. And we got back, and from that point on, I was pretty okay. I was just lying with my leg up. I had a lot of swelling and was just very, very sleepy still. I I think we ate something, we ordered some pasta or something, and just went to sleep, which has been very, very uncomfortable. I don't know whether to chat in this video about like how I've been feeling over the past week, because I feel like this is quite long anyway, and this is probably quite a good like point to kind of wrap the video up. But I am doing really well. I am definitely healing quickly. I have been doing lots of movement, which is what I've been instructed to do. So I have to keep my foot elevated a lot of the time. I have to say sleeping is like not that easy. And my walking is getting a lot better. Like I don't have to have my crutches now. And the instructions that I was given were basically that I can put weight on it, I can move it a lot. It's really good to practice the flexion, like moving my knee up and down. And yeah, just getting all those movements back into place. But yeah, we're now just in the healing period of this whole thing, and I can't believe that I have finally had this operation after the longest wait, longest journey with it. But I have learned a lot of things along the way. One would be to just get an MRI as soon as you can get an MRI, rather than trying to trust people knowing what's inside your knee and what's going on when they can't see inside of it. So yeah, that would be one of my tips. Definitely get an MRI as soon as you can, just to really check if it's available to you, to try and push to get it through your NHS GP, or to just go privately if you're able to, just to see exactly what's going on before you try and commit to kind of doing 6 months of rehab and realize it's not going to work. Also, if you have a specific surgeon that you would like to see, then try and use the referral system. They can say to you that they are okay to operate on you via the NHS, and you can ask for a referral from your NHS GP, and that was a really amazing system that I had no idea existed. So yeah, that would also be one of my big tips as well. But I am probably going to leave it here in regards to the journey of how everything started and how everything went up until my operation point of view, and maybe in a few weeks I can give you another update. I feel like I've kind of answered all the questions that I generally get asked, because a lot of you will reach out to me and say like, you've got a knee injury and what do you do? Like nothing's working, what should you do? And I think I've pretty much gone through everything and answered most of those questions. But do let me know in the comments, or message me, DM me, or whatever, if there's anything else that you do want to know. But thanks for listening to my whole story of Annie's knee, and I'm gonna get back to doing some more work.